It began. Like any other ordinary day, the sun rose quietly over the city, casting golden light across the airport runways. Travelers moved with tired eyes, dragging suitcases through echoing halls, unaware that something beyond understanding was about to unfold. Amid the hum of conversation and the steady rhythm of departures and arrivals, one event was about to change everything. It was the moment when the line between reality and the impossible started to blur, and the world came face to face with a mystery that would never be forgotten. The story of the woman from Torenza. The woman who appeared out of nowhere. It was an early morning at the airport, the kind where everything feels routine, the kind of morning that gives people comfort because they know what to expect. The sound of rolling suitcases filled the halls, and the echo of boarding calls blended into the air. Everything was ordinary until something completely unexplainable happened among the sea of tired travelers and rushing footsteps. A woman appeared. She was calm in her movement, graceful in her presence, and her eyes carried the confidence of someone who had done this 1,000 times before. She stood in line just like everyone else, her face expressionless, yet strangely distant, when she reached the front and handed her passport to the officer. The air seemed to change. The officer glanced down at the passport, and for a moment everything seemed normal. It had every mark of authenticity, an embossed seal, official stamps from various countries, and the kind of wear that told stories of years of travel. But then his gaze stopped on one word: Torenza. It was written clearly in bold letters as her country of origin. The officer frowned and looked up at her, expecting to correct a spelling error or laugh off a printing mistake. But the woman's eyes were sincere, calm, and utterly certain. She spoke softly, saying she was from a small but proud nation between Spain and France. She described it with such detail: the culture, the architecture, the bustling markets, the pride of its people. It all sounded real, too real to be invented on the spove. Officer called another colleague. They both stared at the passport, then at each other, then at the woman. She stood tall, her confidence beginning to fade as she sensed their confusion. More officers gathered. Maps were pulled out, databases searched, files checked, and calls made, yet no one anywhere had ever heard of a country called Torenza. There were no borders, no records, no flags, no history. The woman's calm began to melt away, replaced by a flicker of panic that she tried desperately to hide. Her accent was familiar, yet strange. Her language was a blend of European tones that no one could quite place. Her currency was unlike anything used anywhere in the world. The more they asked, the more she seemed to realize something she could not yet accept. Her voice started to tremble, her breathing grew uneven. She kept repeating that Torenza was real, that it had existed for hundreds of years, that her family was there, waiting for her. The officers tried to remain professional, but unease settled over them like a shadow. The air around the counter felt heavy, the sound of other passengers fading into a distant hum as everyone's attention turned to the woman whose home seemed to exist nowhere. The officer holding her passport could not shake the feeling that he was staring into the eyes of someone who didn't belong to this world. The woman was taken to a quiet room, away from the noise of the airport. The air felt heavy as she sat across from two officers who tried to keep their tone calm and professional. They began their questions, slowly asking about her flight, her reason for travel, and her country. She answered each one without hesitation. Her voice was steady, confident, and she never once stumbled over her words. She said she was visiting America for business, that she had been to the country before, that her passport had always been accepted without question. She spoke about her home Torenza as though it were the most ordinary place in the world. She described its location between Spain and France, its government, its flag, its history. Her story was detailed, precise, and consistent. She spoke of streets lined with stone buildings, of a large white clock tower in the center of the capital, of children who played near fountains and old cathedrals. She remembered the smell of the bakeries, the sound of the bells that marked each hour. Every word she said carried the weight of truth. Her eyes were filled with sincerity. Yet the officers felt an unease growing deep inside them. They brought in maps from every known region and placed them in front of her. She leaned forward, pointing to a blank space near the border of Spain and France, claiming that was where her country stood. Her finger hovered over a place that on their maps was nothing more than forest and mountain. When they told her there was no record of Torenza, her face fell, but only for a moment. She smiled nervously, thinking, "It must be a mistake," she said. The world had always known her nation. She could even name its leaders, its cities, its exports. She even showed them her currency, which had detailed engravings of landmarks that did not exist anywhere on Earth. The officers called in experts to examine the documents, the paper, the ink, the style of print. Everything was consistent with authentic government issue from somewhere, yet no such country had ever existed. Her passport contained real visa stamps from nations like Japan, France, and Brazil, all appearing legitimate. The problem was that none of those countries had ever recorded her arrival or departure. Her travel history was impossible. As the hours passed, her calm began to fade, replaced by visible fear. She asked if she could make a call, but when given a phone, she froze, staring at it, as if she didn't recognize the device. She whispered that the numbers she knew would not connect here. She looked around the room, her hands trembling as the realization grew inside her. She began to ask strange questions about the year, about the world events, about leaders' names, as though she was trying to confirm something horrifying. Her confusion deepened with every answer they gave. The officers grew more unsettled. The more she spoke, the more her story seemed impossible, yet undeniably real. Her documents, her language, her memories, everything pointed to a truth that did not fit the world they lived in. It was as if she had come from a place that existed just beyond reach. Version of reality that had somehow bled into theirs for only a brief and terrifying moment. Night fell over the city, and the woman from Torenza was moved from the airport to a nearby hotel. Under strict watch, the authorities decided to keep her there until morning so they could continue their investigation. The room was simple: a bed, a chair, a window with heavy curtains, and a single guard posted outside her door. She seemed calm at first, though her eyes kept wandering around the unfamiliar space, as if she was searching for something familiar, something that could anchor her to reality. The officers checked on her several times through the night. She was polite and quiet, always answering questions with the same firm conviction that her country existed. She asked for news of when she could leave. She said she only wanted to return home. She even tried to show them a small travel schedule written neatly in her journal. It contained flight details, names of airports, and dates that didn't match any existing records. The handwriting was elegant, almost old-fashioned. The ink seemed slightly faded, as if it belonged to another decade. As the night grew deeper, the guards outside the room noticed nothing unusual. No movement, no sound, no footsteps, just silence. The hotel hallway was empty, except for the soft hum of a flickering light above the door when the morning shift arrived. The first officer knocked on the door, expecting to continue the interrogation. There was no answer. They knocked again. Still nothing. The door was locked from the inside when they finally opened it. The room was empty. The bed was untouched. The bathroom door stood open. The window was sealed shut from within. There were no footprints, no torn fabric, no broken locks. Her passport was gone. Her journal missing. The only thing left behind was a faint indentation on the chair cushion, as if someone had just been sitting there moments before vanishing. The hotel staff swore they had not seen her leave. No security footage showed anyone matching her description exiting the building. Every corner of the place was checked, the roof, the basement, even the service tunnels. But she had simply ceased to exist. The officers tried to explain it. Logically, they talked about hidden exits or assistance from someone outside. But the more they searched, the less sense it made. There were no fingerprints, no DNA, no trace of anyone else in the room. The silence that followed was thick and haunting. The guard, who had been outside her door the entire night, refused to speak for hours. He said he never heard a single sound. He never saw the door open. He never even looked away, and yet the woman was gone. The air inside the room felt colder than the rest of the hotel, and for reasons no one could explain, even the lights seemed to flicker when they entered, as if the space itself had witnessed something it couldn't understand. Rumors began spreading among the officers. Some whispered that she had never truly been human, that she was something that belonged somewhere else. Others claimed they saw shadows moving in the corners when they searched the room. The case became a silent wound in the department, a mystery no one could solve, and one no one dared to talk about again after her disappearance. Investigators searched every possible explanation, but nothing made sense. Files were opened, meetings were held, and people were called from different departments. Everyone tried to piece together what had happened that night, but the case grew stranger with every detail that surfaced within a few days. Newspapers began to whisper about it, and theories started spreading among locals. Some said it was a government cover-up, others believed it was a hoax staged to hide something much bigger. Yet those who had seen the woman with their own eyes knew what they saw. They remembered the calm in her eyes, the fear in her voice, and the way her very presence felt different, as if she carried the weight of another world on her shoulders. The first theory that caught attention was time travel. Some experts suggested that the woman could have slipped through a fold in time, that she had somehow crossed from another century into the present. The technology to prove this didn't exist, but her outdated handwriting, the strange design of her passport, and the old-fashioned material of her clothing made people wonder how old her reality really was. Others dismissed this theory, calling it fantasy, but none of them could explain how her belongings looked both authentic and impossible. This day no one truly knows who she was or where she came from. Her name, her country, her entire existence remain a puzzle that time itself refuses to solve. Some say she slipped back into the world she came from. Others believe she still walks among us, searching for the place she once called home. Every airport, every crowd, every passing stranger could be her. A silent reminder that not every mystery has an answer, and that sometimes the most ordinary moments can open the door to something far beyond our understanding.